Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Bright Side. We're coming to you today from sunny South Florida and chilly Northeast New York.
Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay, Stamford, Connecticut, right outside of New York. Another amazing week. So much that we could talk about on the bright side, but something that's near and dear to me that I'm a big fan of is football. And last weekend was, baseball's our national pastime, but the Super Bowl has just, over the last 55 years, has become such a gigantic event. Not only the game itself, but the commercials and everything that leads up to it. And this year, it was all about Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. Now, Tom Brady, if you're not familiar, won his 7th Super Bowl. To put it in perspective, two teams, the Steelers and the New England Patriots, have 6. He has 7. He has more than any team in the history of the NFL, and he does this at the age of 43 years old, which is a young man, but in the world of sports where he's been playing for 21 years, it's an amazing feat. And how does he do that? He works really, really hard, putting all of your opinions about him to the side. Whatever you think, it's just whatever. He works harder, and he's, his dedication and his commitment. So I was thinking about it as I do these early morning workouts, and I know you do. And a lot of people think that it's suffering or it's hard and it's not worth it to put in that hard work. But when you see him holding his 7th Super Bowl trophy, my question is, isn't all the hard work and suffering worth it? So people that have to curb a diet, people that have to wake up and go to a gym, people that have to practice, whatever it is that you want to do, if you keep doing it and you punish yourself to do it, I see it as the bright side. I see those moments of all that pain and all of that extra effort as the bright side.
So what you're saying is you like the guy.
I'm a diehard Jets fan, and he just walked all over us.
That's rough, Howie. Didn't know that. I didn't know that about you. That I have a respect for you because that means that you're committed to something, even in the face of it maybe not being valuable.
They have been so painful, but a few years ago, I was one of those Brady haters. Yeah. And I just started to realize what he was doing. He was doing Michael Jordan stuff. He was doing Wayne Gretzky stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm getting older. I don't know how many more of these guys are going to come around in my lifetime. Yeah. So I started to just defend him against all the haters. And the last few years, it's been fun rooting for him. Still a Jets fan, but it's been fun. And the thing that I really respect, as health coaches, this man's on a regimen with his diet and his workout. It's not a mistake that he's at the top of his game. I mean, sure, he's been given some talents that, you're born with, but he took it to a level that so many people at his level screw up along the way, whether it's the fame, the fortune, the model wife, whatever it is, they get into trouble. Yeah. So, that's where I respect what he does, the work ethic that he puts in.
And it takes a lot of courage to respect somebody that's hypothetically better than you at something. One of the things that, it's an interesting topic that we've chosen today. One of the things that I know about us humans is that we don't really appreciate when somebody, Gay Hendricks wrote a book called The Big Leap, and it talks about, things called hidden barriers, reasons why we will stop and turn around and quit on things. And one of them is called outshining. We're actually taught at a very young age to not outshine our brother, our sister, or anybody. Don't be a show off and all that. We're all taught that. So what outshining means is if you rise up, you actually unveil people's weaknesses. If somebody's not rising up and you do, you put a spotlight on them. Perfect example is if you're a smoker and you hang out with smokers and you quit smoking, smokers don't want to hang out with you anymore because you make sure that everybody knows that you're smoking when somebody else stops. So it's interesting how as human beings, and I challenge everybody to really kind of, you can put this in the chat or you can just kind of blink and admit without us knowing that this is you. I know me personally, I've spent, a great many years putting friends down that were flying high. I remember if I was at a low or a plateau in life or maybe kind of sucking a little bit, if a friend of mine was kicking ass in life, I remember unconsciously how I'd say, yeah, it's not going to last. Or, yeah, but do you know about his marriage or something like that? So it's interesting. That's that whole they hate us because they ain't us thing. So when you take a guy like Tom Brady and you're not a fan of his team or of him, and if you're on social media and the news, you could say, yeah, but he did this. But what you said is true, Howie. There's a lot of lessons there. Show me another 43-year-old doing what he's doing. He's the Michael Jordan, Mahomes. He's the what's the other guy? I can't think. I'm not a sports guy. The on the Lakers.
Kobe Bryant?
Not Kobe Bryant.
LeBron James.
LeBron James. And I apologize to all sports aficionados out there. Dragon fell in love with the chicken. He doesn't know nothing about sports anymore. But what you saw was the old best versus the new best. And, when you saw, I didn't pay much attention. I was there to see the commercials, and I wasn't too impressed with that. Chicken and I were asleep in the third quarter. But I did see the news the next day, and I saw LeBron James, Mahomes, come and congratulate him and say how much he respected him. So, in the spirit of what we're going to talk about today, the respect that I have for him is that he put the work in, and that's why he got what he got. And the question is what would happen if you put the work in? Anybody. When I say you, I say anybody that's watching this and listening. What would happen? And you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm talking about the hard work. I'm not talking about the easy and the fake work. Hey, I had a really busy day, but you didn't, right? You did the easy stuff. What would happen if you actually planned ahead and prepared yourself and gave it even 85% of your best with consistency, built discipline, built new habits over time? What would happen? I'd assume you could achieve the same thing. That's it. So the real question, Howie, that I'll bounce back to you is anytime you see someone put that work in, and everybody watching here, you, me included, we've all put that kind of work in for something. Now, I used to put that kind of work into gaining weight. You know what I'm saying? I used to put that kind of work into drinking beer and hanging out and doing stupid things with my friends. And then I flipped the switch and I started putting that work in for building my business, my health and stuff. But what I can tell you is anytime I ever put hard work in with consistency and discipline, it was always based on the value of what I had. So when he's holding up the trophy there, I'm enamored by it, but I could care less. I don't care about the Super Bowl. That's why I'll never do what he did. But when it comes to me creating financial freedom and traveling the world and creating a life for my family, that's my Super Bowl, which is why I put the work in.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking about people that I know that are on top of the mountain in whatever their careers are. They're unstoppable. I love the hat, and I'm wearing a hat today too. This hat is called Trans Am Tri. My friend Wayne Kurtz organized a triathlon that takes place from one coast to the other. Do you realize the training that goes into that?
Yeah, but Tom Brady could moonwalk that.
Yeah, right? So it's just, you have to be unstoppable. You have to have big goals. You gotta put the work in. And I think what stops people from doing that? So Tom Brady drafted in the 6th round. Many's drafted in front of him, probably more talented. But, I think it's a line that Derek Jeter always said. There are players that have more talent than me, but nobody's going to out-hustle or outwork me.
Yeah.
So, where he lacks in some sort of talent, he makes up in work ethic. And the work ethic sometimes isn't fun. Sometimes it's hard. The rejection that comes, or the disappointment, it doesn't always go the way you want. Same way in sports, you're going to lose. You're going to be, if you're a quarterback, you could be responsible for your team losing. You could fumble it. You could throw an interception. Whereas if you're playing the line, you're probably not going to lose the game unless it's really obvious. So you have to have a mental mindset to deal with those types of situations. And then how do you just bounce right back? By doing the work. By doing the work and knowing that you gave it your best, you did your work, and you keep going, and it will turn. It will turn if you keep your foot on the pedal.
Yeah. And, you mentioned the idea of a mindset. And, it's interesting where this has taken my mind, because I've been spending a lot of time, as you know, Chicken and I are, I don't claim this to be my religion, but I would say the religion of choice in the Chicken and Dragon household is Buddhism. And I just find it fascinating, the approach, of Buddhism. And they talk a lot about suffering and creating a relationship with your suffering. And they say the goal in life is to suffer well. So if you think about that, what does that mean, to suffer well? Well, that means, like, you walk up to Tom Brady when he's putting in the extra work, because we're using him as an example, or the LeBron James, the Mahomes, or whoever it is. The person that you are perceiving is putting in the work that you claim is too hard. You walk up and ask them, and they're high on it. They actually love it. They don't look at it the same way. And the reason why is they have a different relationship with it. So I recently read this book, and I've actually started reading it again. It's called No Mud, No Lotus. And it's a Buddhist book. It's written by this amazing author. His name is, I'm going to try to say it, something like that. But he's down with the Dalai Lama. But what he does is I'm going to open up the Clubhouse room right now, actually. So if anybody wants to join us on Clubhouse, you can listen to the remainder of this, and then we're going to have a little after party where you guys can come and interact with us live. So anyway, the premise of this book is that if you look at this, if you look at a lotus. Oh, okay. So that's how we
lower the volume.
Put it on mute. There we go.
Where's the mute?
I'll take care of you, baby.
I got it. I did it too.
All right, good. So the idea of this book is really cool, because if you look at the lotus flower, which is one of the most beautiful, spiritually beautiful, but also beautiful and one of the nicest fragrances. It smells really nice, a lotus. If you ever get a lotus, you'll love it, right? But if you look at how the lotus is grown, the lotus is actually grown in muddy water, like water with a lot of mud. And what everybody will tell you is that whenever you go to a field where lotuses are being grown, the mud smells really bad. And I won't tell you what it smells like, but it smells really bad. So the concept is that if you want this beautiful lotus, you can't have it without the mud. So, you can use all these analogies, but the value, and I've done this in my life, I no longer look at anything as hard. I look at things as part of the process. Like if I'm baking a cake and one of the ingredients is flour, if I want the cake, I have to use the flour. I'm not going to tell you that the flour is hard. It's part of what I want. So if you start to look at the hard work or things that you're afraid of, like suffering, To suffer well means to understand that winning doesn't exist without losing. The Super Bowl and the 7 rings that he has doesn't exist without the pain and all the work. You know, he didn't get lucky. It's not even his skill set. He built all those things. So one of the things that I love to share with people is this idea that if you can create a different relationship, it always has to start off by you identifying what's important to you, whether it's the Super Bowl or whether it's financial freedom or health or traveling the world, whatever it is, and you got to attach that to the things that matter most to you in life. He's done that, I promise you. It started when he was a kid. He probably started dreaming of the Super Bowl way before he even played football. So once you've done that and you see the value of it, then you're going to be confronted when you start to say, all right, I got to go into action, and now it's time to do the work, do the hard work and do the hard work, right? That's the point where people typically turn around, because they'll try it and then and it's hard, and then they'll fail and then back off of it. So if you can create a different relationship with the mud, right, and understand that everything that you want doesn't come without it. And one of the things that he says in the book, and this is really cool, he says, if you look at the lotus flower, he says, when you look at it, can you see the mud, the water, and the sun in the flower? And people say, what do you mean? I see the flower. He says, well, take one of those away and there is no flower. So if you look at Tom Brady and you see him holding this up, and you can get past the whole hating him because he's better than you, and you look at him, can you see all the injuries? Can you see the time away from his family? Can you see the obsessive dedication? And then you go back to what you're looking at right now. Here's the funny thing about success. Everybody knows how to have it. They just want to figure out how to get around it, but it's hard work, consistency, and discipline. So when you look at your task at hand to have what you want, and you say it's too hard, in that statement, you're saying, I don't want it.
Want it, right. How bad do you want it? Something that you said before, I know this line that you have a t-shirt and my friend Shay Eskew uses all the time, embrace the suck. And, he's this guy who's had massive burns all over his body, and he's defying the odds, and he's a world-class triathlete, and he just works harder than anybody I know. And, Jack Daly, whose birthday it is today, Jack today is...
He's a golfer?
No, that's John Daly. Jack Daly's my good friend.
Oh, personal growth guy.
Yeah, 72 years old today. He's run a marathon in every state. He's done triathlons, which he started at 58 years old, on every continent. And a year ago, he ripped his quad off of the bone. And you can't even believe he's ready. If it weren't for the pandemic, he's ready for marathons again. The training, the hours, and the work that he puts in, and nobody works harder than him. He wants it that bad. He wants to live to 125, and he lives his life and does what he does every day. That's his long-term goal, and he's known that for years. So he's lived this certain life, and it's pretty amazing. So
he probably doesn't even know he's doing it. It's so common now. It's his new reality.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that at the beginning of every year, he puts his goals online. He has a board of directors, a few friends, they discuss, and then he puts up the stats at the end of a month and end of a quarter against his goals. And he's constant, and he puts it all out there for everybody to see. He has a list of a bucket list, and he puts his 100 items out there, and every year he crosses some off. And he's working at that. 100 golf courses he wants to play. But it's all out there for everybody to see, to be held accountable. And I've been lucky enough to become close friends. I've traveled. I've done Grand Canyon with him, marathon with him. And, we got sidetracked by the pandemic. But where I was going with that is, how bad do you want it? He wants it bad. He wants it at a level that nothing will get in the way. And Shay is embrace the suck. So if you put embrace the suck when you're out there running at 4:30 in the morning when everybody's sleeping, and then you're doing a bike ride or a swim or whatever it is, you get the results. So I loved what you said about the Lotus, because even if you look at a picture, I'm looking at a picture across from me now. This is a picture behind me. Somebody spent a really long time getting that together. Although, you know, we don't know how much work.
That might be, but Howie, that might be a print.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying the original, right?
Right, you're right. You're right.
So in everything we look at, we don't know what the person's background was and what it took them to get to that level. We just enjoy it.
I got a great story for you. I forget where I read it. So if I remember the author, I'll figure it out. But this is not mine. There's a story of I believe it was Pablo Picasso, who was actually a friend of my father's, or my grandfather's, my father's father. That's an interesting story. But Pablo Picasso one day was at a little cafe. Oh, this is so cool. He was at a cafe and sitting there, and he was Pablo Picasso, and people knew who he was, right? So he's sitting there having a little coffee, and he's scribbling on a piece of paper, just with a pen, scribbling just something. Probably had an idea for a picture or whatever, right? And he takes the piece of paper and he crumples it up and he drops it on the ground, right? So somebody that was watching him saw him, and they walked over as he was getting up to leave, and they picked it up off the ground. And he looked at them and he says, "That's mine." And they said, "Well, you threw it away." And he says, No, I just put it there. It's mine." And they said, "Well, can I have it?" And he says, "Absolutely, but it'll cost you $10,000. Right? And they said, "But you just crumpled it up." So the point is that it's not $10,000 is not for the image. It's for who he became and all the hard work he became before he was known. You know, a lot of this, and by the way, for those of you that are watching on the different live channels right now, we've got some people showing up in the Clubhouse. So if you're not on Clubhouse, join Clubhouse. It's a cool audio format, and we're going to have a discussion with some of these folks after on this topic, live, you know, person to person. Just go download the Clubhouse app. You can find my account at Makes Sense, and that's @ Makes Sense, and then you'll be able to get connected to the Bright Side After Party. And I think Amber's putting it in the links in the chat. But what this is really about, as most things, is it's just about a headspace. It's about your relationship with things. We talk a lot about how we create perceptions. And if you look at something, it's one thing to look at something and say it's hard, but it's another to look at it and say it's too hard. A lot of the things that I do, including public speaking, because, you know, I've shared openly that one of my biggest challenges in life ever was that I suffered massively from anxiety associated with public speaking, like a lot of people. And I just made a conscious decision a long time ago that I was not going to run from it, and I came. So it's hard, right? So it's still, anytime I do a live presentation, and I'm watching right now, we're live here, we're live there, we're live in the Clubhouse and all these things. That's not easy to do. People might perceive that it's easy to do. It's hard. But it's hardly something that I'm not going to do because it's attached to something that matters to me. And I always give that idea. The best way a human being, thick-skulled, can figure this out is I always tell you, you know, if I either put your head underwater and you want air, all of a sudden it's not hard to fight. If you're scared of heights, but your child's life is at risk, you're not scared of heights anymore. So the easiest way to fix the immediate problem is to have something you want so bad that nothing will stop you. But the bigger vision, the long-term vision, is to really, really start to get quiet. And by the way, this takes practice. I practice this concept every single day where I identify what I perceive as hard and I look and say, what role does it play in what I want? And another thing, back to the flower, Howie, he brings up a good point. He says, while you're pissed off because you wanted to have a picnic and it's raining, you have to identify that rain is feeding a flower somewhere, right? So there's always a duality going on. But he says if you are in love with a flower, and very often you'll I know Howie was a very romantic character and he would give women flowers. But if the flower dies and wilts, right, part of you is upset that the flower didn't last. But when the flower wilts and goes into the ground, what does it do? It serves a purpose. It takes the soil and gets it prepared for a new flower. So if you really embrace that duality of how suffering is a major ingredient in baking any sort of success pie, you start to suffer well. So I wake up and most of my goal is to live uncomfortably and seek out the suffering that is attached to the goal that I desire.
It's a way to look at suffering.
Yeah.
It's a totally different way to look at
suffering more. You gotta go suffer more.
Plenty of it. We all do. And it's suck it up, right? Embrace the suffering.
The next time anybody, you included, any friend says, hey, I'm really struggling, I'm going to say, man, you're so fortunate. Something good's coming.
Right. You hear that all the time. You're getting closer.
You're getting closer. Keep swinging that pickaxe. And very often,
you can't stop swinging the pickaxe.
Because
the suffering lay out.
Because we shy away from the hard work. Very often, we don't know that we were a day, a minute, an hour away from what it is that we desire, right? Isn't that interesting? How we get so close to something, and because we don't know exactly where it is, we quit, and we don't understand that it was right about to happen. It was right about to happen. So it's all about understanding that the obstacle is the way. Holiday wrote that book. I never really understood it until I really got it. But I look to suffer. I looked for the hard stuff. I look to get uncomfortable because it's the only way that I know that I'm on my way to something. If I wake up and everything's easy, you'll never, ever meet anybody, ever, 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 that says, I woke up and everything I desired was wrapped up in a present with a pretty bow on it. They tell the same story.
I was at Monday night when you spoke to the national audience. I love how you started. No, but I love how you started out with a reference. What a long, strange trip it's been.
I did that for you,
I absolutely texted you while you were talking. But another one that I always say, when life looks like Easy Street, there'll be danger at your door. And that's what you just said, that you wake up every morning expecting the suffering to come.
And we got Charles Barton here from Singapore, listening to the Bright Side. So interesting to be on the other side of the planet and hear from some of our friends on the other side of the planet. So I say, Charles, how are things going tomorrow? Isn't that interesting? We can actually ask Charles if tomorrow's a good day because he's already in tomorrow. They're 13 hours ahead of us.
If only he could give us tomorrow's news.
Tell us right now. He's going to put it in the chat. Charles, we're all in the U.S. right now, and we want to know, is tomorrow, the 11th of February, going to be a great day? Watch this. He's going to tell us, and then we'll all know. Charles? I don't know if he can hear me.
I was hoping he could tell me what MED is going to do. No, that's unbelievable.
That's right. So let's close it up, and then we'll jump into the chat.
So for those that aren't familiar or I see there's a bunch of people in there already, which is great. Clubhouse is the new. And it's awesome. We've both spent some time. Charles said tomorrow's going to be superb.
And by the way, Charles has an English accent, so he says superb.
Very nice, Charles. So we're going to leave here, and we're going to go into Clubhouse. We're going to call it the Bright Side After Party, and we hope you can join us. And if anybody wants to get on Clubhouse and they don't know how and they need an invite, just reach out to me. Just shoot me an email, howie@howiedoingit.com, or click this link right there that we just put up at 513 above, and check the comments for a link to the Bright Side After Party. And we'll look forward to seeing you there. We can answer any questions, and we'll be right there. There won't be any suffering in our making you wait like a real-time concert or something. How about when you go to a concert and you're sitting there waiting for the act to open, and you just sit there and they're later.
I love it. I love it. It's the deep breath before the plunge. And if you ever go to see Bob Dylan, you're going to wait for a long time.
Absolutely. Well, JC, another good one in the books, The Bright Side. Keep suffering. Everything you ever wanted is right on the other side of it.
Take it easy, brother.